Well, hello there folks, I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be talking about Chapter 8.2, Applying the Pythagorean Theorem. In your workbook, you will find this on page 218. So to try these. Is each set of numbers a Pythagorean triple? A Pythagorean triple is three numbers that the square of the two smaller numbers added together is equal to the square of the bigger number. Or in other words, it's like 3, 4, and 5. So 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to 5 squared. So the first one here, we have 1.2 and 0.5 and 1.3. So if this is a Pythagorean triple, 1.2 squared plus 0.5 squared is going to be equal to 1.3 squared. 1.2 squared is equal to 1.44. And 0.5 squared is equal to 0.25. 1.3 squared is equal to 1.69, and indeed, 1.44 plus 0.25 is equal to 1.69. In this case, 18.2 is the bigger, so in number 2, 18.2 is the biggest number, so if this is a triple, it'll be 18.2 squared is equal to 3.1 squared plus 2.3 squared. So 18.2 squared is equal to 331.24. 3.1 squared is equal to 9.61. And 2.3 squared is equal to 5.29. Now, you might not be able to add 9.61 and 5.29 quickly in your head, but you can be sure that it's not equal to 331. So this is not. So no, yes. And that's it. That's it for this. All right, so getting started here. How far must the third base player throw the ball to get the runner out on second base? So first of all, what is the unknown length? I guess they mean hypotenuse. It's the hypotenuse because we have a leg here and a leg here, and the one across is the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse. Use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate the unknown length. We have a squared, which I'll choose to be 27. So we have 27 squared plus 10 squared. And that is equal to 829. So we have 829 meters squared. C squared is equal to 829. So C is equal to the square root of 829, which is, I should write that, 829, which is 28.8 meters. So what is the distance to one decimal place? The player must throw the ball 28.8 meters to reach the other side. Example number 1, I don't totally love this one, but we'll do it anyway. Beth, a wood or a carpenter, needs to estimate the length of the diagonal across a wooden post. How can she estimate without measuring? So which is the unknown length? Well, this is going to be a hypotenuse again. So hypotenuse. What is the square of a leg? 7 over 2, because 3.5 is the same as 7 halves. So 7 over 2 squared is the same as 7 times 7 divided by 2 times 2. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 times 2 is 4. So it's the same as 49 fourths. What is the sum of the squares of the legs? Well, I have 49 over 4 plus 49 over 4, which is going to equal 98 over 4, but I can divide both of those by 2, and it actually turns out that it is 49 over 2. So if I add two of the same thing together, two fractions together, that have the same denominator, they are going to end up having the same numerator with the denominator divided by 2, assuming that denominator was even to begin with. So that's the first step. We have 49 over 2 is the sum of the legs. So estimate the square of the sum now. Well, 49 over 2, I mean, that's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. So 49 over 2 squared is equal to... See, this is like estimate the square of the sum. I mean, that's almost like 50 over 2, so that's almost like 25 squared. And but you probably don't know what 25 squared is. So that's why I don't really like this one. Estimate the square of the sum. Oh. Wait, I think I made a mistake. I think that's the problem. Because this isn't working out properly. So what is the sum of the squares of the legs? 49 over 2. 49 over 2. Estimate the square of the sum. Yeah, no. I think I did C and D together. So we're just going to leave that. So 49 over 2 is really close to 25. There we go. That makes a lot more sense. So what is the estimated length of the hypotenuse? Well, the hypotenuse squared is equal to about 25. C squared is equal to about 25. And so C is equal to about the square root of 25, which is 5 inches. So the diagonal is about 5 inches long. It's actually 4.949747, etc., etc., etc. But there you go. Example number 2. Yeah, I don't like example 1. Example number 2. Jess's grandfather let out a 125 meters of kite string and is holding the reel 1 meter above the ground. Jess is standing 75 meters away, directly underneath the kite. How far above the ground is the kite? Which is the unknown length? The unknown length is A. How can you calculate the unknown length? Well, the square of the hypotenuse is, so C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. The square of an unknown leg, so A squared, is equal to C squared minus B squared, because if I subtract B squared from both sides, I get C squared minus B squared. So set up the equation and solve it. A squared plus 75 squared is equal to 125 squared. So A squared is equal to 125 squared minus 75 squared. 125 squared minus 75 squared is equal to a nice round 10,000. So A is equal to the square root of 10,000, which is 100. So how far above the ground is the kite? Well, if you remember this triangle, since it is being held a meter above the ground, we have to add 1 more meter. So it is 100 plus 1, or 101 meters above the ground. And that's the answer to example number 2. Finally, example number 3. A familiar sight to you guys? Probably. The Sammy's teepee, or Sammy's teepee, I actually don't know how to properly pronounce it, in Medicine Hat, Alberta, is the world's tallest teepee. Each pole is 69.9 meters long and touches the ground 24.4 meters from the center of the base. What is the height of the teepee? So once again, we have the hypotenuse in a leg. the original thing is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You know what, we should use the actual numbers. So the first leg, 24.4 squared plus b squared is equal to 69.6, or pardon me, 0.9 squared. So b squared is 69.9 squared minus 24.4 squared. When you put that in your calculator, you find it to be b squared is equal to 4,290.65. So b is equal to the square root of that. The square root of 4,290.65, or, if you put in your calculator, approximately 65.5 meters. The height of the teepee, then, is 65.5 meters. And that's it for this. The main thing is to just make sure you check which one is the hypotenuse and which one is the leg. So if it's the hypotenuse, it's just a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If it's one of the legs, it's the missing leg squared is equal to the c squared minus the other leg squared. So a squared is equal to c squared minus b squared, or b squared is equal to c squared minus a squared. And that's it. If you have any questions, please do let me know. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you later.